Hi everyone, I'm Sue,
I'm Chris.
and we're going to talk about the emotional friction of making a couple's budget.
Currently, this is September, and that marks our 1-year anniversary for doing a couple's budget for the first time. We did that for a couple of months just to get it right before we actually did a joint bank account together.
So, one of the issues that we had when we were making our budget together is that we didn't agree on everything.
Yeah, there's always going to be a little bit of that. We had some disagreements over how we were going to split up certain line items in the budget, things like fun money, things like restaurants, different details like that.
So, I think a good thing to define too is what fun money is. And some people call it your blow it budget or whatever, but it's literally just the entertainment category or fashion or whatever odds and ends stuff is not necessary to being alive. So, just all those little things that you just want to blow your money on. And the restaurants too. I like eating out. Love me some Chipotle. But you wanted to cut that down, and I didn't like that.
Yeah, we really needed to cut it down too, because when we're not tracking it, it's very easy for that to get out of hand very quickly.
Yeah, and something else too that you wanted to trim excessively was the grocery budget.
And it's difficult to figure out exactly what groceries are. Is groceries just what you need to eat or drink to stay alive, or is it the stuff like shampoo and body wash so that you don't go to work smelling completely awful?
So that was one thing, was actually defining what fell into the grocery budget, because we mostly shop at Walmart and stuff. So obviously you're not separating those things out, and they all end up in what I consider the grocery budget. But I know some people break those out, and that's how they can say, oh, we only spend $200 a month on a family of 4 for groceries. But then all those other things are a completely separate item. So for us, it was combining those and bumping it up from, I think you're very ambitious, $200 or whatever it was.
Yeah, which would have been really nice to get those bills paid if we were only doing $200 a month in groceries, but when you put everything into the pot like that, it ends up being quite a bit higher.
Yeah, and I think realistically we spend pretty close to that on just food, if we're being really real. So we're not super far off, but that was a definition situation more than anything. And I think one of the other things too that we had a bit of disagreements over was having an unexpected category. So we call it the unexpected miscellaneous expenses.
Yeah, that's kind of our catch-all category, so stuff that wouldn't fit into the grocery budget because it's not groceries, or fun money, something that you have to spend money on but you don't necessarily want to. So when you have to redo the registration on your car at the DMV, that costs money. You know that that's coming up. It's going to go into an unexpected miscellaneous, maybe unexpected is the wrong word. It goes into a miscellaneous category that we call unexpected.
Well, some of it is unexpected too, gifts that come up. It's not necessarily a regular line item for us, even though there's a lot of birthdays throughout the year for us and a lot of our family. They're kind of clustered in a couple of very specific times of year. So we might go a whole month and not drop anything on gifts, and then all of a sudden it's 8 birthdays and Father's Day all fall at the same time. So it was hard trying to figure out that line item too, just because, some months it's feast and some months it's famine on that. So that was really difficult to pin that down, but also even allowing that category in the first place, because sometimes things just come up and you need to be able to have money set aside for that.
Yeah, if you have the money already allocated for it, it's not that big of a deal when those things do come up. The money's already there. It's just a matter of making sure that you track it from the beginning of the month to when it's paid into the next month so that it doesn't get out of hand.
Yeah, and then one advantage too, because our channel is also about our debt payoff, the other advantage was that at the end of the month, if we hadn't spent all of that, that could also be additional extra debt payoff money. Although I'm pretty sure we've maxed out or exceeded that category every single month since its inception 1 year ago.
Yeah, we started with that a lot lower. We started with around $50 for unexpected expenses, but if you're doing 3 or 4 birthdays all in 1 month, that isn't going to work. So we've had to actually quadruple that. We're at $200 a month now for unexpected expenses, and we still come pretty close to hitting that every single month, just because large family, all those little things that add up. Even something like a haircut goes into the unexpected category. So It's very easy for that category to run away. But budgets are organic. They're not a fixed thing that's set in stone. So by having it flexible and making sure that you can always adjust if that category isn't big enough or if it's too much, having that ability to make those changes is where, a budget isn't really a prison. A budget is just a budget.
Yeah, so I think that actually leads into part of the big friction with doing the couples budget is that I was actually afraid. And some people would say, oh, are you afraid of knowing what you spend or whatever? And a little bit, yeah. But a big problem for me is that I've known a lot of people who've been controlled by their partner or spouse with a budget where, you can't this, you can't that, you can't do anything. And you're not like that.
No, I try very hard not to be.
But this was part of the conversation, was being very honest and open and just saying, I know this sounds like I'm making you a bad person, but I need to be honest about my fears. And so we did have to have that conversation as well. So
yeah, and not for nothing, but there was definitely the fear that I would unintentionally try to control every single dime and every single dollar, which is not what I wanted to do. I just want to make sure that we're having the extra left over to go towards the debt payments that need to be made.
yeah, so that was actually part of the delay in even starting the couples budget, was that we just had to talk a lot of it to death. Like, we went beyond beating the dead horse.
Yeah, we overthought it and overtalked it.
Yeah, so I think one of the big things, if you're going to start a couples budget, or even if you already have one and you're trying to improve it, is to make it a judgment-free conversation where, you might turn to your spouse and say, I'm sorry, you spend how much on what? Or you want to spend what on that? Don't say that to them. Just, you've got to be judgment free and just say, we'll talk about it. Let's talk about it, and keep talking about it, and talk about it until you're sick of talking about it. But honestly, that's the only way to find that middle ground and compromise to make it actually work in the first place. Because even if you think, oh, well, we'll just put this in there and roll with it, it ends up where there's going to be that friction later.
And we've been really good about making sure that we are always talking about it, even though we have our individual fund money. We still always turn to each other and say, I want to spend $20 out of my fund money this month, and then make sure that the other person's okay with it before we do it. We know that the money's there. We know that that's what it's there for, but we still just have that conversation. It only takes a second for us to say, I want to spend $20 on this. Is it cool? Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
And then we do it.
Yep, and I also want to add too, like, it's not like I have to call you up if I'm gonna like, I went to Target and spent $20 the other day, and I didn't call him, I didn't text him. I was just like, hey, I went to Target and now $20 is missing out of the account. Like, it's one of those things. It's more of a courtesy to just say to the other person, oh, hey, I'm gonna do this, is that cool? But also to recognize, obviously, sometimes because the money has been allotted for, it's like, I have $200 of fund money from rolling it over month to month, and I saved up for these brand new shoes or this bag or these video games or whatever it is. Like, if the money is there, again, judgment free, it's whatever that person wants to do with it.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually spent more than $20 or $30 at a time since we started doing our budget together where you didn't know about it first.
Yeah.
I always would either just text or call and be like, hey, this is coming out of fund money. This is going to be, restaurants if I want to get pizza or whatever.
Yeah.
It's always something that we've planned for, so I don't have to try to figure it out next month when we've gone over our budget by $150 to $300 for stuff that we weren't planning on. It was planned, it just wasn't spent yet.
Yeah, and I think too, it's also important if it is one of the larger purchases, like if you're going to get, $100 something or whatever, and your fund money is lower than that amount, even though it has been rolling over, just so nobody panics when a large amount comes out of the bank account, just so everybody's on board before it happens, so that it's not like you plan your fund money to come out same time as me. Oops, now how do we pay rent? Not that that would happen, but depending on how close down to the dollar you are in your bank account with things, just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, a big thing when we were talking about it was the fear. We both have certain fears about it, the fear of one of us controlling the other. The other thing that was a big fear, and is still always kind of a big nagging thought in the back of the head kind of fear, is what if one of us just gets out of hand without realizing it in our spending? What if, because our fund money rolls over every month, if we don't spend it all, we make that big purchase and then, oops, we can't pay one of our bills that's coming up? But that's where overthinking it and over-talking it really has helped.
Yeah, and we actually have another fail-safe, which we'll talk about in another video, so that if you do accidentally go over, you're still safe. So be sure to subscribe so that you can see that one when it comes out. And I think that's pretty much it for today. I'm really curious, A, if you have a couple's budget with the person that you're with, and B, how that's going, or if you guys have made changes, if yours is similar to the method that we do. I would really love to know, because I feel like a lot of people do it very, very differently. So leave that in the comments and we'll read those and maybe even pick a few for a future video down the line to talk about. So
Absolutely.
all right, well, we'll see you guys in the next video.